Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 sneaker releases in holiday 2023, along with whether they're going to be profitable or not. If you enjoy these types of videos regarding the market, reselling, and even info on how to acquire these limited products, be sure you subscribe and enable post notifications. This way, you're always 100% updated on every hype sneaker. Also, for urgent updates like shock drops and Sitelists, make sure to follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10. And for early information before the shock drops actually occur, Endurance always has your back for sneakers and much more. You can feel free to join with the link in the description below. Kicking it off, we have the Jordan 1 Satin Bred in women's. These are dropping on October 18th for $180 in women's sizes. While the 2016 Satin Band looks very similar and goes for a fortune, don't expect these to perform the same. I'd expect these to perform similar to what we saw on the Jordan 1 Patent Bred, which might potentially leave you with some room to make some small profit with a subpar margin on large sizes, especially 10.5 and above. Nonetheless, as a Bred Jordan 1 colorway, I think a lot of us are going to want a personal of these, especially because it's the closest thing we could get towards that Satin Band, which was not only extremely limited, but also numbered. Moving on, we have the Ja 1 Zombie. These are dropping on October 20th, as well as some retailers on the 28th for $120. Ja 1 started off with a lot of hype, but most of the colorways lately have just been personals, aside from the EYBL colorway, which was very limited and thus very profitable with a great margin given their low retail. Of course, Endurance members had all the early info on that drop, including the fact that they would be very limited. This was one of those drops where Nike did mess with the data on the endpoint, causing all the fake plugs to have incorrect info since they rely on public endpoint data for shock drops. When it comes to these very limited shock drops, Nike is going to mess with that stuff, and Endurance always has your back. Of course, Endurance does do so much more than just sneaker information though, so if you're looking to broaden your horizons as a reseller and entrepreneur in general, I'd encourage you to check out the link in the description below if you have 1 minute to spare. Anyway, these Ja 1s might actually end up being profitable contrary to most recent colorways, considering there seems to be a lot of demand already brewing on these, and a retail of $120 is only going to help them. Of course, it's too early to know the stock, but closer to the drop, if it turns out that these are indeed very limited, most likely these are going to end up being profitable too. Next up, we have the KD3 and Pearl. These are dropping for $130 on October 27th. KD and Pearls typically garner a lot of demand, and I would definitely expect the KD3 to be one that performs well as well. Not to mention the low retail of $130 on this model is only going to help them, of course. With that said, I would expect these to be profitable with a decent to good margin, of course, especially on those larger sizes. Also, just an honorable mention to the KD16 and Pearl, which is also dropping on the 27th for $170. Next up, we have the Jordan 1 Royal Reimagined. These are dropping on November 4th for $180. A lot of people, including myself, are really upset with how they turned this one out. They could have done a really good job making these look like the Jordan 1 Lost and Found, simply adding somewhat of a vintage vibe, but instead, they decided they were going to reimagine it sort of like a Jordan 1 mid colorway. It looks very tacky, looks really cheap. I'm not a fan of it, but if you are, let me know down in the comments below and I'll hear you out. Nonetheless, it is still a classic colorway, and it is still a reimagined Jordan 1, so they should carry a pretty decent amount of demand. Nonetheless, even the original 2017 Jordan 1 Royal colorway, without any tampering, didn't have a crazy amount of demand. It still had pretty decent demand and it was profitable, but when it comes to this new pair, I'd actually expect them to perform slightly lower than what those were, and those were sitting around 250 to 260 post-drop, so most likely at best these are going to be lunch money with a subpar to poor margin on the large sizes. As of now, I'm sort of skeptical on anything too great, but of course we'll see as we do approach the release. Next up, we have the Jordan 11 Neapolitan. These are dropping on November 11th for $225. Of course, this is not a very hyped colorway, but Jordan 11s in general tend to garner a lot of demand since there aren't too many of them released very frequently. Unfortunately, I don't believe this colorway in particular is going to have sufficient demand to be profitable, especially because that retail is so high on Jordan 11s at $225. With that said, I'd expect these to mostly just end up being personals. Moving on, we have the Jordan 3 Fear Pack finally dropping again for the very first time since 2013. These are dropping on November 25th for $210. While there was a lot of demand on the 2013 pair, I would not expect all of that to carry over for these. Granted, for those, it's been a very long time. Demand's been building up, while there's very few pairs left in circulation that are still dead stock. When it comes to these, I'd expect them to perform like most Jordan 3s have been recently, aside from the white cement Jordan 3s, which is mostly just personals, unfortunately. But if you do want a personal, I wouldn't sleep on them, as I'm still expecting them to sell out and not go on sale. Next up, we have the Jordan 4 Craft in olive. These are dropping on December 2nd for $210. Of course, Jordan 4s in general have been carrying really great demand, but the prior Jordan 4 Craft didn't exactly have the highest demand. Initially, they were sort of bricks. Of course, they did still sell out, and I'm expecting these to sell out too, of course, but they might not be the best performing Jordan 4. Nonetheless, I do think that they will outperform that original Jordan 4 Craft colorway, and I think some of it has to do with the fact that these look like the Jordan 4 Undefeated, and that might bring some more demand onto these. But of course, we will see as we approach the drop. As of now, I'll be somewhat conservative still, and I'll say I am expecting them to be profitable, at least in large sizes, but only for about lunch money with a subpar to poor margin, hopefully better, and we'll see as we approach the drop. Moving on, we finally have the iconic Jordan 11 DMP making its return for the very first time since 2006 when they first released alongside the Jordan 6 DMP. These are dropping on December 9th for $230, yes, $5 more than other Jordan 11s that have been releasing, but you know what? I don't care about paying that extra $5 when it comes to these. These have been grails for many people, including myself, for a very long time. For me, at least since I've gotten into sneaker reselling and collecting, I've always wanted this pair. I'm sure a lot of you guys could relate too. And so you could guess that demand is going to be absolutely insane for these, but along with that insane demand also is going to come insane stock. Just like we've seen on other prior classic Jordan 11s when they've retroed them, like the Concords or the Breds or even the Cool Grays, these of course are going to have very large stock. In fact, as of now, the rumor is that there's over 1 million pairs produced for these, so it's a ton of stock. That means they're not going to be extremely profitable, but I do still believe, despite that slightly elevated retail and despite the huge stock, there is going to be sufficient demand for these for them to be profitable with a subpar to poor margin, considering that retail is high, or potentially slightly more than that. Again, we'll see as we approach the drop. As of now, I'm pretty optimistic about these being at least somewhat profitable, even if the margin isn't incredible, and because this is such a huge stock drop, you could end up getting tons of pairs. And this is a sneaker that's going to have so much demand where you shouldn't have any issues flipping these locally, so I really encourage you guys to try to find some local buyers for these. This way, you could avoid those massive platform fees and make a lot more off this drop than you otherwise would. More importantly though, I think all of us could agree that we need a personal of these in our collection. Next up, we have the Powerpuff Girls Nike SB Dunk Low dropping in 2 colorways. First, we have the Bubbles, and then we also have the Blossom pair. These are both dropping on December 14th for $135, and I would expect both of them to be very profitable with a great to incredible margin. Definitely full throttle on this drop. When it comes to any SB Dunks, remember that skate shops do tend to drop at random times and dates, so make sure you do pay attention to your monitors if you have them. Endurance does monitor every single skate shop with in-house monitors, so if you're looking for some skate shop monitors for these drops and every other hyped SB Dunk Low, make sure you check out Endurance with the link in the description below. Moving on, we have another one that I know you guys are extremely excited for, and that is the Kobe 6 Reverse Grinch. These drop on December 16th for $180. While these won't have the same demand as the original Grinch colorway, nonetheless, they're certainly going to have very high demand. In fact, if you go check the bids on these now, the demand that's already brewing for these, despite the release being so far away, is absolutely insane, and it makes perfect sense. Everybody loves Kobe still, and especially that iconic Grinch colorway, and this is just another version of those. So while I wouldn't expect them to perform as well as the original Grinch pair, I'm still expecting them to perform very well. You could expect them to be profitable with a great margin, but I think all of us could agree, just like the DMPs, this is a pair that most of us are going to want in our collections for personal. And finally, just some honorable mentions for today. First of all, we have the Jordan 5 AMA Meniere in 2 colorways dropping. We have the Photon Dust, and we also have the black colorway. Honestly, I should have put these in the main list, at least over the Jordan 3 Fears, or maybe the Jordan 11 Neapolitans, but whatever, we need to talk about these nonetheless. These should be dropping on November 22nd for $225. AMA Meniere Jordan collabs do carry decent demand when the model is good, like we've seen on Jordan 3, the Jordan 4, and even the Jordan 1s, but the 12s and the 2s, unfortunately, didn't do too well. And when it comes to the Jordan 5 model, I'm honestly pretty skeptical, especially because the retail is so high at $225, plus the expensive shipping that AMA Meniere is going to be charging. So as of now, I'd say at best you might be able to make a little bit of lunch money if you have no tax, or if you buy them from Nike and you get free shipping. And even then, I'd only expect a poor margin on large sizes, nothing crazy, but I might change this as we do approach the drop. Of course, I'm going to keep you guys updated. Just make sure you're subscribed. Another honorable mention is the Paris Gabelle Dunk Low. These are dropping on October 9th for $125. I don't think many of us are going to like how they look, but the name in general might carry a decent amount of demand, at least from women, so you might be able to make some profit off of certain sizes for these. We'll see as we do approach the drop. Another honorable mention is the Tight Booth SB Dunk Low, which should be dropping sometime during the holiday 2023. The only reason that I didn't put these in the main list is because I don't have a precise date for them as of now, but I'm pretty sure that they're supposed to be dropping sometime during holiday 2023, and when they do drop, you could expect these to be very profitable with a great margin, so otherwise they definitely would belong in the top 10 list. Now, of course, we have a lot more heat that's going to be dropping, so if you're interested in any updates on those and more precise resale predictions, definitely make sure you do subscribe, because I'm going to be covering every single one of those pairs month by month in our monthly sneaker videos. Make sure you do subscribe and enable post notifications, and if you do have a minute, make sure you do check out Endurance with the link in the description below. We do so much more than just sneaker reselling, so if you're looking to broaden your horizons as a reseller or entrepreneur in general, looking for other unique, interesting ways to make and save money, be sure to check it out, and also follow my Twitter for urgent updates and info. Keep that up 10. Let me know which pair you guys are looking forward to most, and with that, have a fantastic rest of your day.